Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist/secular/awesome community. This is episode number 174. I recorded this interview on December 27th, 2018. Thank you to Amy Cool for joining for a first panel, and thanks to Jeannie and Deborah for being last-minute ads. Well, thanks to Jeannie for trying to get Deborah on board. Check out the Ginger Snaps, and someday Jeannie and Deborah will have their own show, and it'll be huge. It was a fun discussion, and we will try the panel setup again next month. Or this week. I had alexmoreschi on most recently to talk about his former time at No Religion Required and his work as a triple certified Christian chaplain. Michael Schaffer was the host of Reasonable Risk, but the show is making a comeback after Michael endured a tough 2018. Morgan Stringer has been left at the podcast altar a couple of times, but she's still with Beyond the Trailer Park, and she just got engaged, passed the bar, and still likes being a lawyer. We talked about who likes to give and who likes to receive, when it's a good time to get engaged and when it's not, hint, ask Ari Stillman, and for the most part, it was a positive discussion on the year that is almost over. Enjoy the show.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast show. Tonight we're doing part 2 of the review of 2018. We're hoping it won't be as depressing as that sounds. So welcome to the show, Morgan, Michael, and Alex, or is it Alex, Michael, and Morgan? I did want to say Michael Schaffer, who's, I guess technically in the middle where I'm looking, posted that 2018 was dumpster fire at the end, wrapped it up in seconds, so we could have just a really quick podcast. But I wanted to say hi, so let's see. Where's everybody located? So Alex is in
Albany,
rural,
Georgia.
middle nowhere, Georgia.
South, middle nowhere.
Michael, are you in Boulder, Colorado, or is it Denver?
I am broadcasting live from a closet in Denver.
Denver. Nice, okay. And Morgan's still in Oxford, right?
Oxford, Mississippi. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that Oxford.
You staying there until Mississippi gets to another bowl game, right?
Then I'll be here forever.
Aw.
Yeah. Our head coach went to Liberty.
I know. I wanted to throw in a Hugh Freeze, even though that's probably just for the two of us because we're the two football fans. But the fact that the Mississippi former coach who got kicked out because he was paying prostitutes,
and he got us in a bunch of trouble via NCAA,
and now is the coach for Liberty University, which is, I'm not even sure if it is technically a university, but they have a football team, and they're
and we play them.
Oh, that's beautiful.
In 2021, those people are going to get the Liberty University students get to see the debauchery that happens in the Grove on a Saturday. So I'm surprised they're letting them come down here.
Oh, Alex, we forgot the chat room. That's dangerous, you know. The guests should never see the chat. It's we don't mean what we
We did that last time.
Kind of like the No Religion Required chat, except that thing was like a scroll. It never ended. So how was everybody's, we're 3 days past Christmas. How was it for everybody? We'll start Alex, Michael, Morgan, and we'll kind of rotate as we go.
Yeah, no, it was good. I went to Savannah, Georgia for the weekend. I helped out. I've got a friend that kind of started a church community there, or took over the start of a church community there a little while ago. And so we did this Christmas Eve service at a bar in Savannah, which was
Beautiful.
Actually really, really a lot of fun. It actually went really, really well. I got some time away, which is really nice.
Michael, how'd it go? I think, did you have a reunion with a certain former prophet?
Well, I wouldn't call it a reunion. I see Prophet Jeremiah quite often. So I spent last weekend actually down in Arizona in my father's RV. He's an Arizona snowbird in a 40-foot bus. So I actually took my 2 kids down there, and the 4 of us were staying in an RV. So I had to get back here to get my kids to their mom for Christmas because I don't particularly care much about Christmas myself, so I let her have that. So after spending a week in the RV, I came back here, had some friends over, had Jeremiah Traeger and Ari Stillman over for Christmas Day. So it was a nice Christmas, a little some food, some Cards Against Humanity, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I should have told Jeremiah to get in, a little NRR sidekick reunion. 3, you could hash out any lingering issues you might have.
Oh yeah.
Just arm wrestle. I think you got this.
They have issues, I think.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even introduce properly. I don't think we introduced the beverages. So I drove down to Athens, an hour from where I live, to get their double cocoa bunny, which is an imperial milk porter. Apparently, this has even more coffee and cocoa and coconut. And then if I don't have enough coconut, Death by Coconut from Oscar Blues, which is actually, I think they're in Colorado, but they do have a location in North Carolina too.
Yeah, Oscar Blues is, I think their main one is up in Longmont, if I remember right, but they've got a bunch of them now. They have a bunch of outlets now. But yeah, they're a Colorado brewery, and they were really kind of on the forefront of going to cans several years ago for craft brewers. That was never really a thing, way back when, because it was too expensive to can.
Yeah, if you think of there are some controversies in atheist secular community, but then you think of the stuff in a beer community. Yeah, talking about beer bottles versus cans. Yeah, people are going to throw down over that kind of thing. So Morgan, I hear recently engaged, so congratulations. And how was Christmas?
It was good. I mean, it was very low key because I'm kind of wearing my Christmas present here.
It's a nice one.
Yeah, it is a nice one. I was like, no wonder we don't have any damn money. But yes, so it was nice. We just kind of did a low key thing, but we traveled around really the state of Mississippi, seeing various family members, and came back here Christmas evening. I got sent a picture because we had to board Tucker because we were doing so much traveling, and some of my family members don't really care for having dogs in their house. So they sent me a picture of Tucker, my corgi, and they had put some little elf ears on him. He was Santa's little helper for Christmas, so it was adorable because nothing's cuter than a corgi as an elf. But yeah, it was pretty good. Other than that, just kind of hung out and ate too much food, as we tend to do here, to drown our sorrows. And I am drinking a Mississippi Fire Ant Imperial Red Ale, and for my backup, I have a Shiner S'more Ale. It is chocolate and marshmallow stout. I could not buy it last Sunday because the woman was like, it's not 11 a.m. yet, so you can't buy beer because Jesus. So I went and bought it today.
Yeah, they changed the law here. It was the brunch law. It was 12:30, and then they made it 11 so people could get something at brunch. But I do remember going to bars, and they're like, "Nope, can't have a beer yet on Sunday. Oh, not one. It's not time yet. It's not time yet."
Thanks, I'm converted.
Mm-hmm. Well, this might be a personal question, but on the panel, do you prefer to be a giver or a receiver when it comes to holiday gifts? And let's go Michael first this time.
Okay, and because I didn't get to introduce my drink, I'm gonna.
Yeah, so there you go.
So I'm not on the beer train tonight. I am indulging in an 18-year-old Oban single malt Scotch, which I need to pour a little extra of. And I'm going to give a shout out if anyone's up in Boulder, Bailey's Wine and Spirits, owned by a friend of mine. So I got this wholesale, which is a thing for really nice Scotch. So giver or receiver when it comes to holiday gifts, and I'll expand that to gifts in general. I am not a big fan of the concept of gift giving or receiving, because it's so rare to really have that perfect gift to give somebody, or that somebody gives you. gift giving is the most economically ridiculous thing. You think about how many bad gifts get given every year that just end up in a drawer. I mean, I suppose that it employs someone in Bangladesh probably to make whatever it was. But I am just not I'm not into gift giving or receiving. So really, the whole concept of gifts, I'm just not into. Now, if there's a great one, I mean, occasionally I've had, oh, this is a great gift, I'm going to give someone, and then I'll be very happy with it. I don't know that I've very rarely received a gift. I think that I've been like, wow, that's a great, thoughtful gift. But that also probably has to do with spending 20 years with my ex-wife who didn't give good gifts. So cheers.
So
Are we just cheersing to ex-wives, or
just
are we?
a bah humbug, I
My divorce was final about a little over a month ago. So yes, we
Wow! Congratulations!
Wow,
You've joined the club.
club. Morgan, you're fine.
You know why divorce is so expensive?
Don't worry about it.
Worth it.
They're outliers, or actually, statistically speaking, not outliers. Hey, I'm still
I'm sure yours
years running.
great.
Yeah, somebody in the legal profession, I'm quite familiar.
Yeah, I guess so. But Morgan, do you have a I don't know, a gift theory, or a way you like to go about it?
Much like my sexuality, I go in all kinds of directions. I both love to give and receive. I pride myself on being a very good gift giver because I'm good at, like, when somebody casually mentions something, like say back in like July or something, I just kind of make a mental note of it. And I'm also very good at finding gifts that I think vibe with people's personalities and things of that nature. So, or finding great things in my area. Like, for instance, this year I went to my local farmer's market and was able to get some really awesome like jams and jellies. Like, who doesn't love jams and jellies? And they taste amazing because it's just this old ass farmer out in the middle of Mississippi making these. But
Bless his heart too. You gotta say
no,
that.
yeah, bless his heart too. But yeah, he's just trying to make it. So yeah, it's that. And then like for my fiance, I got him a book on, basically it's like he's very, whenever I notice that whenever we go to the bar, he's very indecisive about what he wants, and this literally has charts that are like, are you feeling something citrusy? Are you feeling something like this for each type of liquor? And it also includes recipes for all these different types of drinks. And then in the back, like recipes for all these simple syrups and things like that. So yeah, I am very, very good at giving gifts. At any kind of price range. So I've had to get kind of creative in the past few years, but I also love to get things. Like, I'm just like, oh, someone thought of me, and it's, and with most things, like, cause I don't really go out and buy a lot of stuff myself. So most things I can find a use for. I haven't really gotten what I'd say a bad gift, because it's like, I'll get a lotion and I'm like, okay, well, I love lotion and I will use this. So thank you. So yeah. I'm good at both, but I do pride myself more so on the giving, I'd say.
Yeah, I wish I could gather that skill. I feel like I have this skill of like looking in a liquor store and going, oh, that beer, I want to try that, and remembering it the next time I go. But something like gifts, for some reason, it just flies totally by. Like, oh yeah, they just said something. And plus, you do have to get more creative the longer you know someone. Like, it's hard to surprise them. Plus, whereas you said, I believe in your show, grown-ass adults, so you can theoretically buy anything for yourself. So
yeah, the only thing I don't really bother to do anymore is gifts as far as my dad goes, because and I never was able to figure that one out, because he's the type of person that like, he's just like, oh, well, I wanted this, so I went and bought it. And it's like, okay. And then, most of my friends are like broke recent college graduates or people, trying to make it. So it's like, yeah, there's always something I can get them. But, it's, as far as that goes, it's like, I mean, who doesn't love an Amazon gift card also? So that's a pretty easy one.
True. Very true.
I like Amazon gift cards. I'll send you my address.
Perfect. And Alex, and by the way, I think you're the only one who hasn't shared the beverage you're having, but your gift theory.
Share with the
I
class.
have some gin and tonic out of my Ravenclaw mug because Harry Potter is life. So I'll come out of the gate fighting with Michael on this one, just for funsies. I love giving gifts. I don't really care about receiving them. Honestly, I could take it or leave it. I kind of grew up in a family where it was really big to like make sure you gave something to someone, but I didn't really. So I think that has like made me have an aversion to receiving gifts because I'd get a lot of pointless. I have a lot of stuff, but I love going out of my way to like be creative in my thought for someone. So like I'm terrible at remembering things. Morgan, you've got way more skill than I do. But I try to like be as creative as possible. So, I got my boss for our Secret Santa thing for work, and so I drew a picture of Florence Nightingale for her out of charcoal. Like, she's a nurse. Sorry, I'm a hospice chaplain. She's a nurse. Anyway, so like doing stuff like that. What?
The context helps there.
Yeah, sorry.
I just gave her a charcoal. I was like, dang.
Whatever.
Charcoal.
You guys, you know how flighty I can be. So, I love like this idea of figuring out like what would be meaningful to someone and doing that. And being creative with it and using it as an opportunity to figure something out. So for me, it's more about like, I'll pick one or two people and be like, okay, I'm going to do something fun for you. And then everybody else just needs to understand that I'm not going to get anything for them unless it's something that I think is meaningful.
So remember that next time I see you, I'm like, I guess you didn't think of anything.
Yeah, right. I mean, but for me, like, you're just as likely to get something for me in July as you are for, on Christmas Day. So that's, if I see something or I come across something, I think it's important that we, because while we, materialism is bad, and I'm right on board with you there, Michael, I do think that we are made of stuff. And so sometimes our stuff can be important to us. And thinking about someone and saying, okay, what do you like? Who are you? And going out of your way to do that, I think that that's a really important way to build relationships.
And as time passes for me, I tend to prefer like consumable type gifts, like food or booze. Of course, can never have enough of that. I think most of the gifts I got for this year were like cooking implements because we've just been cooking all the time because we just it's cheaper and it's better, and I have 700 cookbooks in this room, so hopefully we can make it work.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
We all get along.
I'm like, I want to make food for everyone. That's why, like, when I cook, I've had to adjust a lot because I always cook like I'm cooking for like a family of 12 instead of 2 people. So I'm always like, because I just love to cook for everyone. I love to cook in huge quantities. So yeah, anything consumable I think makes a great gift, or any kitchen thing.
That's one thing I've learned. I mean, living in the South probably more than half of my life, like if you come to a gathering and it's in the South, there's going to be a minimum of like 3 times as much food as anyone can possibly eat. Mm-hmm. And my mother-in-law, like, she apologized on Christmas Day because we only had like 5 sides with dinner because we didn't have like the usual 7 casseroles. We had like 3. We're okay. We just finished breakfast like an hour ago. We're gonna be just fine. Now, of course, we talked about 2018 and what a bit of a train wreck it was. But I'm wondering, for each person, was there one thing from 2018 that was kind of a surprise in a good way? And let's let Morgan go, and then we'll let Alex, and then Michael. We'll let Michael think about this a little more.
Because my last answer.
And don't let anybody steal his answer or steal your answer, right?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, this is truly the dumbest time to be alive, and I am, pretty both low key and high key mad about it. But yeah, so I mean, obviously, it's all, kind of a dumpster fire. But I think that what also I was pleasantly surprised by was how, I guess, more engaged people are now. And, it sucks that, yeah, it did take all this, dumpster fire stuff to finally get people to pay attention. But I've noticed that they are, especially, in a region such as the South. Like, yes, we still elected a trash senator at the end of the day who had no business running for any kind of political office. She shouldn't even be a manager at an Arby's, in my opinion. But, yeah, so it's interesting, though, to see this kind of progressive momentum build in the South, whereas before it seemed to be like states like Ohio and Wisconsin were more key places to fight for. And I think people really underestimated the momentum that people had going into places like Georgia, places like Texas, even places like Mississippi, where literally you've had to build these coalitions kind of overnight, essentially, because no one's been there focusing on these states. So it's been very much grassroots. And to have that change from like, oh, there's not a chance in hell to, yes, these Republicans were able to squeeze out a victory, but it's because they gerrymandered. In the case of Georgia, pulled out all the stops as far as voter suppression goes.
Welcome to Georgia. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so yeah, y'all make Mississippi look adorable on that. But we don't have to, but I do feel like it's because I feel like they don't have to try so hard, and I'll be very interested to see because Mississippi has statewide elections next year, and Mike Espy came close to beating Cindy Hyde-Smith. The final vote count, I think, is like for him was 47%. And we have no like organization whatsoever. It's just people are paying attention and people are volunteering their time and people are more in tune with what's going on, I feel like. And, part of me does still want to strangle them and be like, where have you been? Welcome to the club. But, another part is just like, I need to put that aside and just be glad that they're paying attention now.
It's like John McClane in Die Hard. Welcome to the party, pal.
Party pal.
Yeah, the classic Christmas film. Yes.
They did discuss that last night. But we'll Alex. Alex has trouble finding a positive thing to say, so I'm looking forward to this one.
I do. Is that really like?
Oh, come on!
I was gonna say like
something positive, Alex.
I was gonna say like my low point. Like, honestly, like, just going off the back of what Morgan was talking about, my low point was really, like, that election between Abrams and Kemp. Like, it baffled my mind. Like, it really did. Because, I get that Trump won, and I get that he didn't win with a majority vote, but he used the system that was in place to win. Like, and I get that at least. But Kemp out and out cheated and had control over the election that he was running. I mean, like, blatantly cheated, and yet we're all like, oh, okay, that's fine, and then we just like move on. I don't know that.
I don't know.
That really bothered me.
Were we okay? Because there was a runoff, and I felt bad because there was it was for Secretary of State,
mm-hmm.
and then the Democrat got fewer votes than Abrams did, and they're like, oh, we're going to pass these new ballot systems that cost more, make us personal rich, make us money, and then we can erase. Like when they had that big district, the 6th district, which Tom Price, who of course left his position because he was stealing money from the government, which that's what everybody's doing who's in cabinet right now.
Sure.
He didn't win and they erased the results so they couldn't be a recount. But then they did flip it this time. So they flipped the local district. They just, didn't flip the state. And it is tough when you make these big gains like in Texas where Cruz was kind of sweating it out. And then it was like, but then you lose, even if you get 49% of the vote, you still lose, and people think the narrative is in their face. But I don't know, Michael, it's your turn now.
Okay. So I'm.
Oh well, that was my low point. I was going to share a high point.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead with Michael.
No.
That's cool.
Okay, well, you'll hit the rewind. I did a bad host. What was that, slap on the wrist? Go back. Okay, well, Alex.
That was kind of my low point off the back. Like I want to share something positive if I'm not a negative guy. So one of my positives this year was I got my first tattoo, which I think is kind of an interesting thing for the audience. This is actually it's a piece out of Charles Darwin's notebook, and it's his cladistic tree. So it's kind of, I love it because if you look up the thing, it's I think, and then he kind of draws what we now know as this cladistic tree, and it goes on to change the course of human history. I mean, everything that we have from biology and chemistry to, geology and medicine, everything relies on this idea of relatedness. And I think it's the only moment in human history that we have that's an idea, and we have a record of that idea that goes on to just change the world. So that's kind of my, I wanted to put that on my arm to not only just the part about like Darwin. Darwin I don't know if you guys know, but he actually studied to be a priest before he went on the Beagle. He dropped out of seminary. And so Darwin's kind of always been a personal, hero of mine. And just the fact that he was able to see all these things and think, that might be it, that this might be this idea. And then that idea not only turns out to be right, but goes on to change the course of human history. I love it. So I finally got it put on my arm this year. So that's my positive.
Now, for people who are checking this out, the podcast version, and aren't actually seeing the tattoo, it actually was on his ass. But you don't, you don't see this, so I'm sorry, you missed out.
He lied. There's also a big old red popsicle right on the other cheek, so that's obviously not his first tattoo.
That was my second tattoo, was the popsicle.
Yeah. Okay.
The stamp. He's been stamped. All right, let's make sure. Okay, Alex, you're good. Michael?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
I'm done.
Good.
I promise.
Okay. So
I'll just shut up. I need to talk.
So we've been mostly political. I'm going to put in my little political upbeat thing, and then I'll go in a different direction. So upbeat politically, because obviously we're in a complete dumpster fire shit show. But what I've noticed is, I do have some friends who are conservatives, maybe would have considered or definitely considered themselves Republican, many family members. And I have seen, the ones that by the beginning of this year weren't anti-Trump are now, I think to a person, I can think of really just a couple of people that are friends and family that are still Trumpers. And so even the ones that have been lifelong conservatives and Republicans are so done with him, or never were with him, but at least are being very vocal about it now. And I think that's a very positive thing that, I mean, obviously I'm progressive, I'm liberal. I would love to have, everybody I know be that way, but they're not. We all have different views, but at least if we can all agree that Trump is a criminal and should not be in office, then that's a positive thing. In fact, I have a cousin. Most of my family's from Memphis, and I have a cousin who was very active in the Republican Party there, and he's an immigration attorney, and he turned in his Republican card. He is no longer a member of that party, and he had raised money for them for years. So that's a positive, I would say, on the political landscape. And then on the cultural or pop culture, I guess, landscape, I'm really loving that the prominence and the output that we're getting from Amazon and Netflix and Hulu and all these different places. I worked in television years ago when all we had were networks and cable to an extent. And the amount of good stuff that's out there now to watch is it's astounding to me. To be able to not have anywhere near enough time to watch all the stuff out there that's good. It used to be you had a few networks and 90% of what they put out was awful. Now I don't even know what's on network TV, and except for The Good Place. And there's actually really good stuff out there, both movies and series. So we're in culturally we're in a very interesting and prolific time, I think, and that's positive.
Do you have a favorite?
A favorite thing?
Like show, movie that's come out? Just curious.
Well, so I started but haven't quite finished last night watching Bird Box on Netflix. Which
everybody's talking about that. That's Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
Must have just come out because it's getting a lot of people.
Came out a few days ago. Psychological horror movie, which I'm 30 minutes from the end of it. 2:30 in the morning last night. I was like, okay, I can't quite finish it. But it's really excellent. Ballad of Buster Scruggs on Netflix, which I have not watched all of. It's an anthology movie. The Coen brothers, making a movie for a streaming service. Things like that are happening. And I just watched the first, or I don't know if it'll be the only season of Forever on Amazon, which is Fred Armisen and Maya Rudolph in the afterlife. And also just a really, really good show. And that's only 8 half-hour episodes. So it's real easy to just watch in a day or two. And I love that whole trend too of just give me my season of TV. I don't want to watch every week. I want to just pull it up, watch the whole thing in a few days, and then I'll wait another year for the next one. So, I think about that, and I'm like, it'd be kind of interesting to still be working in that business compared to when I was there over 10 years ago. And the landscape has changed so much, but there is so much good product out there.
And so much different stuff too. Like I feel like there's now something for sort of everybody, and that we're getting more of a perspective because, it used to be like these network executives would be like, okay, well, this is our set demographic we've got to, get. And so it was the same people making the same type of shows over and over. But now they've sort of expanded it and been like, hey, we can look beyond that and find something that appeals to different people, that tells, stories from people who maybe we didn't give so much of a voice to before. And now they're finding that, hey, people are actually interested in this content because it tells a different story from a different perspective.
Well, I'll sidetrack for a second here to go off of something there. So when I was working in Hollywood, it was very much that what fits in the box kind of a situation. And a colleague of mine had a client who had written this script, and she brought it all over town to the few places where you could sell a TV show, which were not many in that time. And it was soundly rejected by everybody because it was a period piece. It was set in the 1960s, and nobody was going to make that show. And she got AMC to take a flyer on it, and everyone knows it as Mad Men now. And I heard about that script for years and years and years about how there was this wonderful script she had that she couldn't sell. And it took a new network that had never made a TV show before to say, what the fuck, we'll try it. And, and now it's a model. Now there are so many period shows out there. There are so many different things that, writers aren't so limited anymore.
Yeah.
Used to be very limited as to, okay, got to do another police procedural.
Yeah,
I mean, you mentioned The Good Place. I mean, I love The Good Place. I think it's absolutely not only hilarious, but I love the way in which like religious stuff gets subtly put into a lot of these things is really very, very fascinating to me. I mean, you even think about like the way it was put into the last Star Wars movie of "Well done, my good and faithful servant." I mean, that moment gave me chills. But that kind of stuff
has been a part of Star Wars. I mean, the Jedi is a religion. And it always has been. There's
sacred texts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the midi-chlorians.
We won't go. Yeah,
Well, I think
midichlorian.
today marks 2 years, right? 2 years ago, Carrie Fisher died.
Was it 2 years ago? It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago today.
Oh, Space
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah, and it was sad
Yeah.
how they didn't. I thought they were gonna, even before she died, they were gonna kill her off, but they like, no, we're gonna kill off a different character each movie. So clearly,
They still
Yeah.
got footage.
I'm intrigued to see how it's gonna go because they do kind of overlap. And the funny thing is, I was actually going to ask the next question was about how people consume TV because I actually work at a company that does cable, and desperately, like, people were just flooding away from it. And currently I have like a cable that's just very basic because it gives me internet and it has HBO so I can watch Game of Thrones when it comes back out. But we've been watching a ton of, streaming stuff. We even watched the Christmas Chronicles. Like Kurt Russell as Santa was actually a
Daddy
Enter-
Santa.
entertaining movie. And they have so many, like with the Hallmark series where it's like every movie's exactly the same, but they just crank out like 30 of them a year. And you see like these actors who were like big stars like in the 80s come back. You're like, oh.
Hallmark was actually part of my beat. I was tasked with selling movies to Hallmark at one point.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
It's such a market, but now it's that time of year is over. So is there, I guess, one show, and just what do you have cable, or do you just go with the streaming options? I'm just curious, like maybe a show that you would like want to sell, and then what do you do for cable? And let's go with Morgan first.
Okay, so I do have cable included with my, because I'm still in an apartment, so I'm trying to get out of that loop right now. But I don't know if there's like one particular thing, but I do enjoy having cable because I do like to have like Food Network and HGTV and
Well, I was thinking like
Investigation
live
Discovery
sports
on
is the
in
main
background,
reason.
and then sports as well. But yeah, I do. But usually when I'm in the back, usually like when I'm like doing something and I'm not in the mood to pay attention to a show, like because I've tried to get into Westworld several times on HBO, but the thing is, by the time I'm off work, I just kind of want to hang out and make dinner. And, if I look away for like 5 minutes, I look up and I'm like, I have no idea what just happened. Because, Westworld doesn't go in like that chronological order. You don't know what's happening. So, so I guess I would say I'm just really excited about all the different content that's been coming out because I can't think of just one thing in particular that's really stuck with me, but just I'm really excited about the whole impact. Now, what I am afraid of, though, is that now everybody wants to do their own streaming service. I've already heard that Disney is wanting to do theirs. And what I'm kind of scared of is that, the whole thing where people are getting away from cable because it's cheaper to do this sort of just have the Hulu and the Netflix. I'm kind of afraid it's going to be like, oh, well, now I have 40 streaming services. Now I'm like spending as much as I was with cable, and it's just kind of going to recreate itself in that sense. So I am kind of afraid of that, but, so, I mean, we'll see. But yeah, again, with like Amazon and Hulu and Netflix, I mean, they're really making their own content, their own shows, with Netflix. One that I'm really excited to see, but I haven't had time yet is Dumplin' with Jennifer Aniston. And I think there's a girl that's in that show, in that movie, but she's also in, I don't know if it's Bird Box or it's some other Netflix movie where it's very much more of a serious role. So that's very interesting that you're seeing these actors that are, I guess, showing that they can play, these comedic roles, but also these more serious roles. Another upcoming one I'm excited about and kind of anxious about is the new True Detective season.
Oh yeah, next
on
month.
HBO. Mahershala Ali is going to be in it, so I'm hoping that they do a lot better because the first season was perfect, and then the second season.
I only watched like 2 episodes of that. I didn't get to.
Yeah, the second season it was just I think because the first season, being set in Louisiana and this place that I'm very familiar with, as my family's from there, it was naturally weird. Also, the fact that you have Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, they're naturally able to kind of like portray that. But I feel like that's what drew a lot of people in. It had this weird, this weirdness that's unique to that area and unique to those kind of characters that they can portray. And then they shoved Vince Vaughn in there, and they're like, all right, it's a new setting, it's California, and they could have still made it interesting and weird, but it felt so forced. Like, we have to make this be as weird as possible to compete with the first season, and because it felt so forced and unnatural, I think that's partially why it didn't do so well, but I'm hoping with the third season they've kind of corrected. And of course, I'm very excited about the last season of Game of Thrones, though also, again, very anxious as to what will happen, because I know you're not supposed to have favorites because they all die, but I can't help myself. So, there's a lot of things I'm excited to see, but, some other stuff I was excited to see, like, Black Panther, the different Marvel movies that are coming out. I went and saw Crazy Rich Asians. That was really great. I went and saw A Star Is Born with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga because my fiance was like, hey, let's relax and go to the movies. And then I was like, and then by the end I was just sobbing, and I was like, why did you take me to see that? And he was like, I did not know the ending was going to be upsetting. So, I mean, it was a really, really great movie. And
spoiler alert.
Yeah, but it is a heart-crushing movie. I mean, it's been out forever, so, I mean, and this is a fourth remake.
How many times have they done it?
They remade it, but I've never seen the originals, because the one Barbara Streisand was in, I will say, not her best work, so I did not see that one all the way through, and so I did not know how it ended, because I'd never seen the originals. Usually I've seen, like, all the old movies, but that was one I just had never been interested in, but I was like, Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, interesting. Let's go see that. And then, yeah. But, that was really good. I mean, there's so much good content out there, like, Michael was saying, that it is very difficult to kind of pick and choose. But now I feel like there's something for everybody, and I'd rather there be too much good content than just like, everything sucks or it's mediocre. So that's my take on it. I love it all.
Like, we got Netflix, like, for Stranger Things, and then we just kept it. Yeah. And now that, like, my in-laws also use our account, it's like, well, we can't get rid of it.
As leeches? Yeah, I had that. I'm like the provider.
Every week or two, there's 5 to 10 new shows, and you don't even, like, know half of them. Like, we really like British Baking Show just because we like the way they talk, and the fact that it's, like, unlike American reality shows, everybody's very positive and very supportive.
Oh, speaking of, yes, another British reality show that I love. It's on Hulu. Everyone watch it. Love Island. It sounds trashy, and it is trashy, but it's also British, so it's both somehow trashier and classier than American reality TV. But yeah, I do not usually go for, like, Real Housewives or, like, The Bachelor kind of thing, but this is amazing, and I love it. So yeah, Love Island, highly recommend.
Well, Alex, you got any shows to share?
Well, I don't know about necessarily shows from this past year, but things that, like, lately that have definitely been on my mind have been the Marvel stuff. I mean, not only in terms of television, in terms of shows, I mean, the content that's been put out on Netflix with, like, Luke Cage. I mean, that is so political to me. Here's a black guy that can't be shot by bullets. Like, Jessica Jones is about a rape survivor. Like, I mean, that's so relevant to all of the things that we have going on. And I mean, Blasey Ford, right? I mean, these sorts of things come to mind. And I think that the latest, the fact that all of those were canceled, and I hope that they're just moving them. But the fact that all of those were canceled, including, like, Daredevil, you're talking about, a blind guy, and he's not disabled, but there's still that question. I love the questions of morality and in religion and all of that in Daredevil. The one thing that I'll highlight from this past year is Infinity War. I think Infinity War was super special because
and it just came out on Netflix, and I haven't seen it yet, just saying. But I kind of know what happens because at
this point, I mean, yeah, there's spoilers. Okay, fine. But, like, it's been out long enough that
their contracts are out.
That whatever. So at the end of the movie, right, like, half of the heroes die. I mean, they just kind of blink out of existence. And for me, that's super powerful. we know that they're probably coming back, but all of us that are Marvel fans that have been living with this for the last decade, we have to live with the fact that half of our heroes are dead for the next year, or at this point, the next 6 months. Like, I love that. I think that, when you look back at the second of the new Star Treks that was based on the Wrath of Khan, where in the Wrath of Khan, Spock dies at the end, and then they have to go and find him. In the new version, they couldn't leave Kirk dead, right? They had to bring him back right away. And it's like, we can't deal with our heroes dying, and yet I think they took a really bold decision and said, you know what? What happens if half of our heroes die? And we have to live in that death, in those moments for the next year. That was such a bold decision that Marvel made, and I think it was right on, and I think it was very fitting for 2018.
And then to roll it on to the next one with Captain Marvel. Set in the 90s, the greatest decade.
How fitting is it, right, to bring, like, the next real big Marvel... I know Ant-Man was after, but, like, the next Marvel movie that's really big hits is a woman hero coming to save the day. Like, I love that. I love the symbolism in that. It gives me hope for 2019. But, like, I love that. And I can't overstate how big of a deal I think it is that we leave the summer of 2018 to then Luke Skywalker is dead, right? Our heroes, Spider-Man, Black Panther, they're dead. How do we deal with that as a culture, as people? To me, that's been one of the most fascinating things about this past year.
Okay, Michael, top that. Although you did kind of talk about it a bit, I bet you have more.
Well, so as far as what I actually do for TV, so I've moved twice this year. I've just been in my current place for 2.5 months now, which is actually the first time that I have lived alone in over 20 years, where I get to determine exactly what my television is, what's on, what's playing, and so I started out and I got some great high speed internet, but I did not get cable, and now I'm actually questioning whether I may go ahead and add cable back in, or whether I might do Sling or something like that, because I do find myself missing just having some of those basic cable channels that I can put on as background noise when I feel like it. So I have Hulu, I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime Video, I have all those which really have all of the shows that I want to see. But I am thinking that I may need just basic cable or Sling or something like that for that randomness that comes from having those things. As far as actual content, and I actually have not watched all that much this year. I've been, as we were talking about before we went on air, I've been in the midst of multiple midlife crises, and they have taken some of my time away from consuming media, but that's kind of come back now, and so I am very excited about the Black Mirror movie that's coming out tomorrow. Initially, there was speculation that it would be the next season, and it was just announced today that it's just a single episode, but I think it'll be feature. I think it's feature length. So I'm excited for a new episode of Black Mirror. That's that alone is worth waiting a year for. That is absolutely a truly brilliant show. That was brilliant when it was a BBC show, and has been brilliant in the Netflix era too.
Disturbing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't do it.
One episode for Law and Science Fiction, which is the one with I believe Bryce Dallas Howard. That one where she's, everybody's using Instagram sort of as likes as this form of currency and credit rating.
No,
but I can't watch it because it gives me so much anxiety. It is just I have enough anxiety in the real world.
Too real.
It's not an
real.
it's often not an easy show to watch, but it really makes you think. And I've done I did an episode of Nathan Dickey's show, Leap of Doubt, where we let's see, Jeremiah Traeger was on that with me. We talked about some Black Mirror stuff, and I just find that show to have so many levels to it, and it's one of the most fascinating things that has come on television in years and years. On the movie front, my pick of the year is Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Interesting.
Which I was blown away by. Now, I really loved the first movie. I thought the first movie was great. It was, it was cute. It was a little heartwarming. The voice actors are fantastic. The second movie has an actual, it like really has messages to it. It skewers internet culture. It skewers big internet, your Googles, your Amazons, your Facebooks, everybody. And it's actually I think it should be Best Picture nominated. It won't be. It is. I found it to be spectacular. Part of what hit home with me is there's a message in it about long distance relationships, which I'm in one, so that hit me. That definitely hit me a little bit harder, but spectacular film. It's one of those sequels that takes the original characters, takes everything that was great about the original, and turns it into something far bigger. And it's a totally fun animated film, great visually, but just a spectacular movie. And I like animation a lot. I'll mention another one, Into the Spider-Verse, which I saw.
I've heard a lot of really good things about that.
Yeah, I need to go see that.
I didn't think it was spectacular. I thought it's worth seeing. It's definitely worth seeing if you're, at all a comic book fan. And I'm not a huge comic book fan, but enough. But visually, it was really fantastic, because what it did was it just took the pages of a comic book and translated it to the screen. Mm-hmm. It looks like a comic book. It doesn't try not to. It tries to look like a moving comic book, and it does a great job at it. I wouldn't say that it's spectacular as a lot of people have said it was, but if you have ever read a comic book and enjoyed it, go see Into the Spider-Verse. It is watching a comic book unfold on screen.
Well, gosh, we have gone over our time. Now, usually at the end of the episode, I ask my guests to tell a joke. I'm going to take a different direction this time. I would like each person to give a New Year's resolution you have, and you can make it up if you don't have one. And then feel free to plug shows you have going on. I know Alex is possibly working on something, but if you can't plug your own, plug somebody else. Oh wait, that's dirty. Anyway, sorry. We'll let Alex start. We'll let Michael go, and then
start with the plugging.
No. Start with the plugging. Yep.
No, like you said, I appreciate you asking me about that, because that I think that does need to be my New Year's thing. I need to find some way of putting out content of my own, and I've written some stuff. I've never really put anything out or tried to publish anything, but I need to start a podcast. I've met, just because of the nature of who I am, I've been able to connect so many different people from like a billion different perspectives, and so making my own podcast or something like that, I think is my number one thing that I want to accomplish next year, right? Rather than a resolution, that's kind of what I'll say, is that's what I want to accomplish.
Perfect. Michael, I hear you're ready to reboot. Is this a dark reboot, or is it a refresh?
Oh yeah, no, it's a very gritty.
Just like the Michael Returns kind of thing.
Gritty reboot.
Yeah, gritty. There you go.
So it's 2018 has been the strangest year of my life by far. It's been quite insane. And so 2019, I suppose my resolution will be to not be insane, which I was this past year a bit. But I'm actually so I'm ending 2018 in a great place. I'm thrilled with where I'm at right now in my life. I'm divorced. I got into a really weird thing this year and ended that, and am very happy to now have have a relationship that I'm very happy to go into 2019 with, and to do the plug thing in addition. So I had started Reasonable Risk podcast summer of 2017. So went almost a year and was very consistent. I had an episode out every week. I was doing, felt like I was doing pretty well with it, and ground to a halt in the midst of my various life changes. And so now I've got a couple of interviews in the can. I am going to be relaunching it by the end of January. Probably, and I'm not entirely sure what it's going to look like. It's going to be reformatted a little bit, but the concept's still going to be there. It's still an interview show, and I'm still talking about the various ways that we all take risks and make decisions in our lives. Whether it's from an academic perspective with experts. My relaunch episode is going to be with an interview I already have in the can with Phil Torres, existential risk philosopher about the end of the world.
Dude,
and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so in going on from there, then I'm going to be talking with a sex educator on an upcoming episode. All sorts of various things. I'm really excited to get back into that. It's a way that I can tackle so many different things, talk to a lot of really interesting people, and so yeah, we're less than a month out from relaunching Reasonable Risk, and really, resolution wise for 2019 for me. I think I got the big one out of the way that most people do, which is like losing weight. I dropped about 50 pounds over the last year, and so I don't have to deal with that piece of it anymore. So my resolution is to be productive, to get my content out there, and to be back in the life that I'm in control of, which is I think a good thing to take control of our own lives. So that's my resolution.
Sounds good. Morgan, what do you have?
All right. Well, I took the first step towards my resolution today, which is I actually opened a savings account so I can stop, hopefully just kind of living paycheck to paycheck, being stuck in the rental loop. So, we'll see where that gets me. But I think also, as for me, 2018 was absolutely bananas because it included some of the best times of my life where obviously, graduated law school, passed the bar, got engaged, but also like some of the worst things, happened in 2018. I think I'm going to be also just kind of less hard on myself and less, because I am. And yeah, that's, I guess, to a degree helped me get to where I am by being hard on myself and being like, you're not good enough. You need to try harder and harder and harder. But at the same time, it's like realizing, I guess, the sort of damage that has also done to me where, yeah, it's like I constantly beat myself up all the time, and I need to just kind of be okay with who I am and where I'm at and be more accepting of that. I can have all these goals and everything, but, the whole beating yourself up. And I think that's a problem a lot of people have with just, feeling like you don't measure up, the imposter syndrome kind of thing. And I think I'm just going to be like, you know what? Fuck it. If you don't think I belong here, then I'll leave and find, I'll be better than you. It's fine. So yeah, I think that's my resolution. So right now I'm just doing Beyond the Trailer Park with Deb and Beth on YouTube live at 6:30 p.m. Central. And it's on Spreaker Live as well. And you can catch the show later on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. By Skeptical is on probably a permanent hiatus. So yeah, but I am, obviously I've been thinking about starting on my own for a little bit, but don't know if I'll do that. I do very much like the co-hosting kind of aspect. So open to that. So yeah, just being more open to stuff this year, I think, and, less hard on myself, and hopefully going to actually save money instead of having it disappear at the end of a month like the end of Avengers.
Half of it disappears.
Oh no, for me, all of it. It's much worse.
Spectacular if only half of it disappeared, huh?
Yeah, I know. But no, I'd be in good shape.
Well, I think I
do want to comment that I think that part of what you're talking about being kind to yourself. That was one of the things that I loved about being around Bobby and Ashley on No Religion, is that, I think that there's a lot of power in that. And whether, Michael, you talked about going through a divorce. I've been there, man. Talk about being in the wilderness. That's kind of where I find myself right now in terms of my career and all of that. And like letting that be, like being okay with that, being accepting of the fact that, you know what, we're flawed freaking human beings, and that's okay. We're trying to make some people smile every day if I can, and to me, that's what's enough, and I think that's what's in store for next year, for me at least. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but
I'm going to jump in real quick too, because
keep jumping. Good stuff.
I have to do a little bit more plugging coming off of something. Well, hey, coming off of what Morgan said about getting out of the rental loop. So my real life is that I am in real estate, and so one of the things that I do, and I plug this on my show all the time, is, for anybody, and it doesn't matter where you are, you probably don't know how to find a good real estate agent when you need one. So very simply, anybody out there can contact me, reasonableriskpodcast@gmail.com. I will find and vet you somebody where you are that can work with you. So please take advantage of me. I am somebody that most of my profession hates, because I will openly say that and I've done that scientifically. The numbers are 94 point. Sorry, that's an old number. It's 98.7% now of real estate agents suck. They just suck.
The scientific term there.
That's the scientific numbers. I have checked this up and down. So anybody that is even considering buying a house, email me, reasonableriskpodcast@gmail.com. Let me help you. Okay?
Yeah, I plan on doing that as soon as I have, more than $5 saved up.
You do need more than $5. You don't actually need as much as people think you do. There are a lot of ways to do it without that much money in your pocket. So I just encourage everybody, use me, take advantage of me. I love talking to people that are, and anybody that's out there watching and listening to this show is going to be someone I'm going to get along with. So if you have any questions about real estate, just hit me up.
That's what he said.
And likewise, I mean, for me, for those that don't know, I'm a hospice chaplain. So anybody that's dealing with grief, anybody that's struggling with somebody dying, please feel free to reach out to me. I never mind taking time to listen and putting my professional stuff at use for anybody out there. So I think, Michael, that's a wonderful thing that you do, and I just like to piggyback off of your brilliance.
Full disclosure, I make money from it, but
Well,
just to be completely upfront and honest. But yeah, I do like to help people, and I think that I didn't know you were a chaplain. That's fantastic. I mean,
yeah, dude, we need to hang out. Like
within
from this conversation,
the community that we're within, and to be doing that, I love to hear that. That's spectacular.
Well, if you want to go back catalog, everybody on the show has been on previously. You want the rest of the story, and I think New Year's resolution. I would love to be like Scathing Atheist and have my show come out every Thursday at 8:00 in the morning. That's not going to happen every week next year. I can guarantee that.
Exactly.
I'm hoping for more regular posting, and of course to do more panels because it's less work and more drinking. Win-win, right? So all good. And of course, maybe possibly this whole like actually meeting people in person a little bit. There are a bunch of groups in Atlanta and everywhere where you are, even if you're in the middle of Mississippi or even in middle of nowhere, Georgia. And of course in Denver, well, every bar probably has an atheist group attached to it. So
if you're in Colorado, there
are more of us than you think.
The Secular Hub, which I'm a member of and am at pretty regularly. So if you happen to be around Colorado, stop by the Secular Hub.
And since we're wrapping up, I mean, Zach, I do want to say that I've been on a lot of different podcasts, and I think what you do is very special and very admirable. You talk about people. You ask, who these people are as human beings rather than just sort of debating ideas. I've debated ideas out the wazoo. I'm good at it. I love it. But the way that you are able to facilitate a conversation is absolutely beautiful, and I'm very grateful that you do what you do. So keep up that good work.
Cheers. I'll second that.
I will.
I'll third it.
I just appreciate the fact that, like, on the week of Christmas, I asked all three of you, and you all three, said yes about 5 minutes after I sent it. So that's one thing I like is when you go, oh, crap, I don't have a guest. You're like, but I can bring people on who have been on before. And it works lovely. And, panel, maybe I have to expand. I've been trying to go, 45 minutes. And now I'm like, well, maybe the panel an hour is good because we already did an hour. So thanks, everybody.
But that speaks to you. That speaks to how you do. I mean,
I just let people talk. It's glorious. You talk, I listen. It's beautiful. It's better. You don't want to hear this voice. When I do my own stuff by myself, I'm like, oh no, somebody else, please.
Oh, for some reason, I just keep ending up on shows with Morgan because the last show I did, which I crashed, which was Larry's show, man, it was a couple months ago. I simply crashed because I was literally living on Ari Stillman's couch that week.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a fun time, though. I always have a blast coming on people's shows and stuff because I'm just like, oh, a chance for attention, please. No.
Exactly. Yeah, no lifting flowers on this group. So thank you, Alex, Michael, and Morgan, for being on again, and thanks people for listening. It's been a heck of a year. This is the end of 2018, everybody.
Cheers.
May it end and die.
Go back to Jersey, you moron!
Live read. What is the term for a podcast that is well done, but also makes you feel kind of negative about the world? Well, the problem is, as a country, we've let some truly shitty people off the hook, and it's a good idea to remember when we've had epic fuck-ups, and that leads to things like our current political situation. I would like to thank Chris Watson for introducing me to the Dollop. This is two comedians, one American and one British, I believe, one who researches a story on American history, and the other just improvs through the horror. The two episodes I've listened to have been, well, horrific. One on George H.W. Bush and how he was pretty much terrible from stem to stern. And another one on John McCain, who, not a good person. Go ahead and Google John McCain, Gorilla Joke. I may need to research some feel-good shows, or I need to find that alternative universe. If you want to support this show, be like Bobby, Hugh, Teody, Larry, Daryl, and the other Daryl, plus Freethinker215, and support the show on Patreon. Patreon.com/Zachrilege, Zachrilege. Follow me on Twitter at Zachrilege, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, and send all mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Always looking for guest ideas for next year. So again, thank you to Alex, Michael, and Morgan for being on today, and thank you to Amy, Jeannie, and Deborah for being on panel number 1 for the 2 for this week. Thank you to Mark Anthony Lee and Jules Neve for being new YouTube subscribers. Every bit helps. See you next year.